Good morning children. Children, we will start the next lesson now. That is, the lesson name is fiber to fabric. In this lesson we are going to learn about the fabrics or cloth. So fabric means cloth. Okay. So there is a two students here. So one is, so the students name is Pehli and then Bunju. So who are that? So they are two students. They are Paheli and then, so second one is Bunju. So these are the two students. Okay. So these students, they won the first prize in the science quiz competition. So that was held in their school. Okay. So these two students, they won the first prize in the science quiz competition. It was held in their school. So they were very excited. ಅವರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಬಂತಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವಿಜ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಿಜ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. So they were very excited and they decided to use that money or that prize money to buy clothes for their parents. So they got first prize. Is it? So that is money. So they got first prize. That prize money, they are excited because of winning the first prize in the competition. And then they decided, these two students are decided to buy clothes, to get the clothes or to buy the clothes using this prize money for their parents. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ತಗೋಬೇಕು ನಮ್ಮ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ. So when they saw a large variety of cloth material in the shop, so they get confused. What happens? They went to the garment, they went to the shop, a cloth shop. Okay. What happens? They saw a variety of cloths. When they saw a large variety of cloth material, so what happens? They got confused. Okay. So the shopkeeper explained that some cloths or some fabrics are cotton. Some fabrics or some cloths were fabric, so cotton. Some were synthetic. So shopkeeper came to show the cloths for these students. Then he explained what the shopkeeper explained. So see the cloths whatever we have. He explained that in this shop we have some cloths were synthetic, some were cotton. Cotton, they saw cotton and then synthetic fabrics. Is it? Synthetic fabrics. Okay. So they have seen two types of the cloths. One is cotton and the another one is synthetic. So he also had woolen sweaters or woolen mufflers and then shawls. Okay children. So the shopkeeper had what he had? He had a muffler, woolen muffler and then shawls. Is it? So it is also made up of by woolen. Okay. So shopkeeper has these types of the cloths, that is cotton and synthetic fabrics along with this. So he also showed the other type of the cloths that is made up of by the woolen. For example, woolen mufflers and then woolen shawls. He showed this type of the cloths to these two students. Okay. So there were many silk sarees also. So this shop has many silk sarees. That means the cloths is shown to the students. That's also made up of by the another material called silk. So there were many silk sarees. Silk sarees as well. So they also show the silk sarees to these students to buy for their parents. Okay. So then Pehle and Buju, they felt very excited. So they felt very excited and they touched it and felt these different cloths, different fabrics. What happens? So Pehle and then Buju, they were excited by seeing all these different types of the cloths, and then they touched all these cloths. They felt these different kinds of the cloths. Finally, they bought woolen mufflers and a cotton saree. So after this, they decided to buy a muffler, woolen muffler, and then a cotton saree. Okay. They buy woolen muffler and then cotton saree for their parents. So these types of the clothes, these two students called Pehle and Buju, they buy from this shop. Okay, children. So then, after they visiting to the cloth shop, Pehle and then Buju began to notice different kinds or varieties of fabrics in their surroundings. Have you understand? So children, after visiting the shop by these students, they visit the shop. What is that shop? Cloth shop. Is it? After visiting to the cloth shop, Pehle and then Buju began to notice. So began to identify, began to notice varieties of fabrics or varieties of cloths. So in the surroundings. So a shop we visit ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಅವರು ಸುತ್ತ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಫ್ಯಾಬ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಾತ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾರು? Pehle and then Buju. Then they found that bed sheets. So what are the materials they identified in their surroundings? They found bed sheets and then blankets. They found bed sheets, blankets, curtains, then tablecloths, towels, and then duster. See on the duster, it is made up of by this different material, is it? So they are made up from different kind of the fabrics. So what materials they found are them? So they found that blankets means ಹೊತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ bed sheets, ಹೊತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಳಸ್ತಾರೆ ಕಂಬಳಿ, like that. Bed sheets, blankets, curtains, and then tablecloths, towel, and duster. They found different types of the fabrics. They were made from different kind of fabrics. So these materials called, what are that? Bed sheets and then blankets. They found bed sheets, then blankets, tablecloth, and then another one, duster. So these materials are made up of are made from different kinds of fabrics, different kinds of cloths, isn't it? So ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ cloths ಅಥವಾ fabrics ಬೇರೆ fabrics ಇಂದ ಆಗಿದೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ materials. So they are made up from different cloths, different fabrics. They also identified, these two students, they also identified the school bags and then gunny bags. They are also made up of or made from some kind of or different kind of fabrics. Is it? So gunny bags, school bags. So you do have ಬೇರೆ material ಇಂದ ಬೇರೆ fabric ಇಂದ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Is it? Even your school bags. And then gunny bags. So these things or these materials were made from different kind of fabrics or cloths. Is it, children? So they try to identify these fabrics as cotton, wool and then silk or synthetic. So these children, Buju and then Paheli, so they started, they tried to identify these fabrics as cotton and then silk, wool or synthetic. So andre ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸು ಕಾಟನ್ ಇಂದ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸಿಲ್ಕ್ ಇಂದ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ವೂಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಂಥೆಟಿಕ್ ಇಂದ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. They try to identify these fabrics were made from cotton or wool or silk or synthetic. Okay children, so we will learn more about variety of fabrics or variety of cloths. Understand? Varieties of cloths. Variety of fabrics. Variety in is cloths. So children visit a nearby tailoring shop and then collect. So you have to collect cuttings of fabrics. So that is left over after stitching. So you have to tailoring shop visit ಮಾಡಿ. So ಅಲ್ಲಿ different cloths cut ಮಾಡಿರೋ pieces ಅನ್ನ collect ಮಾಡಿ then identify it. So visit a nearby tailoring shop and collect cuttings of fabrics. So that is left over after stitching. So don't use the main cloths. Left over stitch ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಉಳಿದಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ left over cloths. So collect the fabrics, collect the cuttings of the fabrics left over after stitching. So then feel and you have to identify, touch it first. So feel and touch each piece of fabrics. So you have to take one piece and touch it, feel it. How you, which material it is made up of. So identify. So now by labeling some of the fabrics as cotton, wool or synthetic. So first, so you touch on and then feel and identify or label. So or identify as this material, this blanket is made up of by wool or synthetic or fabric or another one cotton. So like that identify. So then touch ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವು identify ಮಾಡಿ. So this one is made up of by. So for example, take a tablecloth. Is it made up of by is cotton or fabric or another one wool or silk or then synthetic. So children, do you wonder what these different fabrics are made up of? So have you observed the children once? So do you wonder what these different fabrics are made up of? So cloths, fabrics, ಯಾವುದರಿಂದ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಯಾವತ್ತಾದರೂ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? Do you wonder about this, children? So when you look at any fabrics, so when you look at any fabric, it seems a continuous piece. Is it a continuous piece? Now look it as it closely. So take a one cloth, children. So if you look at this cloth, if you look at that cloth, so what do you see? It seems a continuous piece. So ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಏನು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಇದೊಂದು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಲಾತ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್? ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಲುಕ್ ಅಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಲುಕ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ಲಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ತುಂಬ ಹತ್ತಿರದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಡು ಯು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್, ವಾಟ್ ಡು ಯು ನೋಟಿಸ್, ವಾಟ್ ಡು ಯು ಸೀ? ಸೊ children, see here, have selected one piece of cotton fabric here. This is a cotton fabric. Have taken, it's a leftover piece of cloth. Okay. So have taken, I have selected a piece of cotton fabric. Is it? So you have to see very closely. So then only you can observe it, children. Okay. Is it? So try to, you have to try find or try to find a loose, a thread or yarn. So at one end of that, one edge of that piece, and pull it that, what is that? Thread. So see here, children, try to find a loose thread. So where we can see loose thread, see, yarn, loose thread or yarn at one edge or one edge of this cloth, and pull it out. So it is a cloth, a piece of cloth. So you have to find a loose one. Where is a loose thread is found, or a loose yarn or thread. It has the same meaning. ಒಂದು ಲೂಸ್ ಆದಂಥ ದಾರ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಯಾರನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ಥ್ರೆಡನ್ನು ನೀವು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಒನ್ ಎಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾತಲ್ಲಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು pull it out. So I find here. Okay, so then you have to pull out. Okay, you got it? So let us see another side. Yeah, I got it. So if no loose yarns are found, so if no loose yarns are visible, so what you can do, you can gently pull one, or so one, you can pull out one thread, so using a pin or a needle. So take a one needle. If you have not found any loose thread in this cloth, so you can use pin or you can take a needle. So with the help of needle, remove the one thread gently. Okay, so then we find that a fabric. So this fabric is made up of by yarns. So they are arranged together. So it is a yarn, isn't it, children? What is this? So this one is a yarn, is it? So this yarn is arranged together. This yarn is arranged together like this. Is it? Like this, the yarns are arranged. What do you understand from this? We find that a fabric, so it is made up of by the yarns. They are arranged together like this. Is it, children? So what are those yarns made up of? So this yarns. So children, have you observed or have you ever think? So what are these yarns, or what these yarns are made of? So what things are used to make this yarn? So you have to take this thread or yarn. So take out a yarn, and then from the have taken this yarn from this cloth, isn't it? From this fabric. So place this piece of yarn on the table. You have to place this yarn on the table. So take the one thread or remove the one thread from that cloth and place this yarn or thread on the table. Okay. So then now press one end of the yarn. So take one end of the yarn and press one end of the yarn with your thumb. So this one is the, yes, your thumb, isn't it? So you have what to do, you have to place or press your thumb. Press one end of the yarn with your thumb and scratch the other end. Scratch the other end of the yarns along its length from your or using your nails. See, so See children, place your thumb on one end of the thread. So just imagine it is a thread or yarn. So press the one end of the thread with your thumb and using your nail of the other finger, other hand. So using your nail. Okay. So scratch this. So scratch the thread from the other end. Okay. Along the length of the thread. Okay. Understand? So now press one end of the yarn with your thumb and scratch the other end of the yarn along the length with your nail. So press the one end of the thread with your thumb and scratch the other end. This is other end, is it? So scratch the other end of the thread along the length of the thread using your nails like this. Using your nails, scratch this thread along the length of the thread. Okay. So at the other end, what do you find? So see here. If you are doing like this, at the other end, the yarn splits up into thin strands. The yarns, it splits up into thin strands if you are doing like this. Is it? If you are doing this activity, you can see the other end splits into many threads. So if you are doing like this, so the other end of the thread, it splits into many strands or many thin strands. So at the other end, what happens? The yarns splits up into thin strands. When you scratch like this, the other end, it splits like this. Is it? Along with this, we scratch the thread along the length of the thread, isn't it? So if you are doing like this, what happens? The other end of the yarn or thread, it splits up into thin strands, isn't it, children? So then you might have observed something similar to this. So when you try to thread a needle, so if this situation, this one happens to in another situation, how you might have observed something, it is similar to this. When you buy or when you try to thread a needle, you take a needle. So suji karo, needle. If you try to pass this thread through this eye of the needle, you can observe many strands, they are split like this, isn't it? So you might have observed this situation this might have happened in this situation, when we try to pass the thread through the eye of the needle, isn't it? Many a time the end of the thread, it is separated into a few thin strands, isn't it? So when we are trying to pass this thread through this what is this? Needle. So this thread is splits into thin strands, isn't it? So many a time the end of the thread. So when we are passing or trying to pass through the needle of the eye of the needle, what happens? It split. It is separated into a few thin strands. So now ಯಾವುದಾದರೂ ಸೂಜಿಗೆ ದಾರನ ಪೋಣಿಸಿದಾಗ ಅಥವಾ ದಾರನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಹೋಲಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಲಿಗೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಥ್ರೆಡ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ದಾರದ್ದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ದಿಸ್? Yes, children, many a times it happens, isn't it? And then this makes it difficult to pass into the, so pass the thread through the eye of the needle. So if you happens like this thread is splits into many strands. When we are trying to pass this yarn into the eye of the needle, so what happens? It's very difficult to pass. It's very difficult to pass the thread through the eye of the needle. Is it? So this makes very difficult to pass the thread through the eye of the needle. Is it? Do you understand from this? So these thin strands of the thread, so that we see are made up of by still thinner strands. They are called as fibers. So these thinner strands are called as fibers. What is the fiber? So the thin strands of the thread. The thin strands of the thread that we see. So they are made up of by the very thin or still thinner strands. They are called as fibers. Isn't it, children? So the thin strands. So if you take the one thin strand from the what is that? From the cloth. If you take one thread from the cloth, we get the thinner strands. Isn't it? The thin strands of the thread, so that we see, that's also made up of by still thinner strands. Okay. So if you are trying this thread to pass to the eye of the needle, so it splits into thin strands. So these thin strands, so are these thin strands still made up of by thinner strands. Thinner strands, they are called as fibers. So these thin strands, they are also made up of by the thinner strands. These thinner strands are called as fiber. Okay, see here, this one we call as a thin strands. Is it? So these thin strands of the thread, these thin strands of the thread, it is made up of. So we are saying that, is it? So it is made up of by the still thinner strands. It splits, isn't it? So that we call as the thin strands. So these thin strands are made up of by the thinner strands, still thinner strands. So that we call as fiber. So children, what do you understand? Fibers, this is a fiber, is it? Sorry, fabric. This is the fabric. It is made up of by the yarns or the threads, is it? Then these yarns further made up of by the fabrics. Understand? Fabrics, this is the fabrics or the cloth. It is made up of by the, yes, what is this? Yes, it is a yarn or thread. So this is still made up of by the thin strands. Again, this thin strands is made up of by the thinner strands. It is called the fiber. Okay. So children, I hope you are all understood what I explained. So we all know about the, so in this class we learn or we get the information about the fabrics. Isn't it, children? We see different types of the cloths or fabrics in our surroundings, isn't it? We have to feel it by touching and identify, label them as a by giving different names like cotton or wool, silk, synthetic, like that. And then what we learn, each fabrics is made up of by the threads. Even these threads are made up by the thin strands, and then these thin strands are made up by the thinner strands, and these thinner strands we call as fiber. Okay, we will continue in the next class. Thank you, children.